Since we last met, I've only gone and got myself lost in the depths of Thetford Forest. But, as luck would have it, I'd fallen in with a local tribe who've not got an elected meat chief. So I can get rid of this old thing and put on a much more suitable hat. Yes, so, here's to me and a long reign, and hopefully a chance to fill my pockets again after those thieves at Alzan. What ho!
Today we return to New Adventure Systems for the Spectrum and the Magical World of S Robert Speel. Chapter 5, The Tribe System. It's different from the other adventures in the book, excellent value. I'm the elected leader of a band of hunters and their families, the Tribe. My aim is to survive in power for as many years as I can, or until a maximum of 25 years has passed, at which point I retire. The most important features of an adventure are all present: attributes which are altered, food stocks, treasury, private savings, people, interactions with voters and their guilds, a range of commands, treasures, good harvest, and a score at the end. However, rather than fighting monsters, you fight elections. Instead of taking objects, you help yourself from the treasury, and instead of a status command, there is an opinion poll. We start out as a leader of 20 hunters. At first they're fairly content, but I was chosen to be a leader on the condition I would lead them to a better life. Unless I do this, I'll get removed from office. Each year I make 7 important decisions, and for each type of decision you're shown a different screen of information. The first screen will show you how many of each type of hunter there are. There are 20 hunters, any retirements, and any new recruits. First decision is, what do the new recruits do? You have to divide them up by the guilds. All guilds want to be increased in size. If they decrease in size, they're furious. If they stay the same, they're content. So I'm going to start off by making everybody happy by giving each guild 1 person. Eventually, there's going to be a showdown with the Hunters Guild. We have 50 food in storage and 10 ingots in a personal hoard. This is now the harvest. It's been cold and dry, so the hunters have managed to get 20 sacks of food. Gatherers around 3, farmers 2. The hunters do alright in dry weather. Fishermen like it wet though. So you'll have to choose how much food to give to each people and then how much to sell. The food price varies and 2 ingots is not a great price. So we're going to move on. Now to wages. We have no money in the treasury. We're currently paying each worker 1 ingot per year each. Do we increase the wages, decrease them to make it for nothing, or increase it? I'm sleeping it as it is, and you get to take your cut from the treasury, which is perfectly allowed. That's your wages. Nothing wrong with that. So currently living standards, you've got 1 sack of food per person per year, 1 ingot per person per year. All the guilds have increased in size, so everybody is happy all over the board. 100% guild support, 100% people happy. On to year 2. We've got 2 new recruits, no retirements. Treasury is in the red. So we're going to put the 1 new fisherman and 1 new farmer. They all do better in different weather. See, farmers do well in warm weather. Fishermen like it wet. Gatherers are generally all right. So it's been warm and dry. So hunters have done very, very well. Farmers, not so good. But we've got 76 amounts of food. We've got 26 workers. So let's go with 1 sack per person. And the food price is awful. People want things to get better. They don't really care what they get, but as long as it's better than the year before, they don't mind. Or it's about the same. So if you have to have less food than 1 sack per person, they're not happy. If you give them 2 this year and then 1.5 the year after, they're unhappy. So we could increase wages, but we're going broke, so we're going to keep as we are. And of course, we take our cut. We now have 50 ingots in the hoard. So, guilds are 84%. They're pretty all right. The hunters are only content because they didn't increase in size. On to year 3. We've got 4 new recruits, so we can have 1 for each guild. No retirements. Retirements are why the game kills you. Now, after the harvest has been warm and wet, hunters have done okay, farmers have done pretty well. We have loads of food available and a very bountiful harvest. So I think I'm still going to stick with... no, I'm going to go up to 2 sacks per person. It's a bold move. And the selling price isn't great. So we're going to hope for a better price. The price varies between 1 and 4 ingots per sack we sell to neighbouring tribes. So now we could increase wages, but we are running a massive deficit. We need to stay above minus 200. And of course, I get my cut. So food standards have gone up. Wages stay the same. Guilds are over the moon because everyone got a new worker. And the people are happy. We're getting good at this. Year 4. So, 2 hunters are retiring and 4 new recruits need work. So if the hunter guild drops, they'll be angry. So I'm going to give them 2 new hunters so they stay the same. And then no new gatherers, 1 new fisher and 1 new farmer. It's interesting. So, harvest was cold and dry. Hunters did all right. Farmers not so well. Fishers did very badly. Gatherers gathered some nuts. So we're going to go with... Yeah. And let's now not sell any food. Awful prices. Year 5. We are about to go bankrupt though. 4 hunters are retiring and we've only got 3 recruits. So the hunters are going to be furious. Nothing we can do to make them happy. So we've got to give them any new support at all. And then instead we're going to make the other guilds happy instead. By putting the 3 new farmers to replace the farmers we've lost. So at least they won't be furious with us. It's nice and warm and wet. Hunters are doing okay. Farmers are doing very well. So are the fishers. Plenty of food. 28 workers. How much food should we give out? So looks like I've gone for 4 sacks per person. Very generous. And the selling price of food is very high. So we're going to sell whatever's left. We are now solvent. Okay, although we are solvent, so should I increase wages because it's an election year? Yes, indeed. And of course, I take my cut. So, living standards, food is up, wages are up, people are happy, guilds are furious, the biggest guild has dropped in size, they force you to hold an election. Every time as an election, you've got to pay 50 ingots from your own personal hoard to stand. If you can't, it's game over. So, it's an election. So, hunters, they're actually 50-50. So essentially 21 votes for me, 7 hunters voted against me. I get back in. Nice. Year 6. There's no food left in the hamper. No retirements though. Hunters are down to 18. So we have 1 new gatherer, 1 new fisher, 1 new farmer. Get them on board. It's been cold and wet though. Hunters have not done very well at all. Fishermen have come with 15, which is nice. And we've got 32 sacks of food only, because we sold all the food last turn. So we're going to go with 1 sack per person again. Unfortunately, that's less than last year when they had 4. I'm going to sell what's left. Living standards. Food is down, wages is up. Guild support is pretty good, but the people are rioting. Rioting people force you to have an election, and you have to spend 50 ingots of your own personal hoard to stand. So, the hunters are greatly against me. Gatherers are pretty much in my favour. The fishermen do not like me. Farmers like me, though. Unfortunately, it's 7 votes for, 24 against. That is a landslide against Old Man Snorkers. I ruled for 6 years, during which time I amassed 30 ingots, because I have to pay for the election, with a score of 415.
I'm a mighty hunter, clad in what I hunted. Don't mess with a hunter's guild, for we go out whatever the weather, as long as it's not too wet, and go and kill and bring back lovely, lovely meat for the tribe. Oh yeah.
This is now version 2, so edition 1 gives tribe 2, which does take you beyond 16k, so you have to be on the 48k spectrum now. To make it easier for you to improve the tribe's living standards, there's a new housing standard that's been introduced, which has the advantage of being a one-off expense. Unfortunately, builders do not work on credit, so the Treasury must hold enough money to pay them to work, or they get angry. After wages have been paid, you have the option of requisitioning money from the treasury, which is morally quite fair, as your wages are now only 10 ingots per year, not 20. Only works when the treasury is solvent. The guild leaders now give you a warning when the guilds look like forcing an election, and for a suitable gift, they can swing the guilds into a less destructive attitude. However, sometimes they do try it on. The other major change is in voting. People now take into account not just the current and immediately preceding year, but 2 years before that. So it certainly features into the voting. So now we've got the building phase. The more houses people you have, the higher price we get. The builders want to pay 48 ingots. We have 40 in the treasury though, so we can't afford that, so we're going to say no. So do we increase the wages? This is unchanged from last time. However, after that, we take our 10 ingot tie, then have the option of garnishing our salary with money from the common fund. We're not going to do that this year. We can now afford to hire builders. You've had the cowboys in here, mate, they'd say. We have a building standard of 1, a basic sort of shack. Everyone's happy. Living standards are improving. Everyone's got jobs. Life is good. The guildfathers say they're going to force an election. I couldn't try and bribe them. An election will cost me 50 ingots. I could bribe them so the election doesn't happen, but I'm not going to. People are happy, so I think I can win an election, even if the guilds are all shouty. Hunters are very much on my side. Everybody loves it apart from 3 hunters. Losers they are. 2 hunters are retiring, and 3 gatherers are retiring. Oh, I'm not going to give anything to the hunters, so I've fed up with their nonsense. My horde is down to 20, though. It's a bold move, because I can't afford to hold an election. It's warm and it's wet, so a good selection of food. I'm hoping for a good price of food. Going for 3 sacks per person, and the selling price of food is rubbish. And I sell some, though, so we are just about solvent. I can't afford to hire builders. If you do hire them, they will smash up all existing housing. If you can't afford to pay them. They're going to force an election. Now, I cannot afford to hold an election, so logically I should try and bribe them. But I'm not going to. It's rather silly of me, because it could be a bluff. The guilds all hate me, and the guilds force me to have an election. I can't afford to have an election. This is game over. You don't even get to vote. I ruled for 7 years, amassed 30 ingots, and scored 425.
Hey man, spears and hooks and ploughs and bogus. We rely on Mother Nature's bounty, man. The seasons come, the seasons go, but she always provides.
Edition 2 gives Tribe 3, opinion polls and inflation. Our main new option is polling. If you want to know how people would vote if an election were to be called, we can have an opinion poll. This takes place after food has been harvested, but before developments, so you can still do something to placate the people if they're against you. Polls are paid for out of my personal funds, though, come in 3 types. A new type of weather, drought, has been introduced, but it occurs only rarely. When it does, though, it can be calamitous. A new bonus, though, is increased food prices, which means due to increased population of neighbouring countries, the average food price may increase by 1 ingot per sack. We've also improved the presentation by changing the display of living standards from numbers to rows of user-defined graphics. So here is the poll screen. We have a horde of 10. The quick poll is 18, large poll 36, and in-depth poll is 54. We can't afford any of those. And the builders, though, only cost 66. We obviously sold lots of food. So we could increase wages, but we're not going to. The key thing is you don't want to increase living standards too quickly. But I think I should, round off the treasury. So I like round numbers. So let's take 18 into my own pocket. And here are the new graphics. So 1 sack of food per person, 1 little hut, and 1 ingot of wages. All the guilds are happy. The people are happy. Champion. Now we have 1 bag of food per person, 2 little houses, and 2 wages. So things are looking good. Living standards are on the up. And it's cold and it's wet. The hunters don't like going out in the wet. Gatherers are not doing very well, neither are the farmers. We've got enough food though for everybody, thanks to my wisdom. And we're going to sell the rest to not go bankrupt. Let's have a quick poll. I'll give a quick poll. You see the numbers flashing up there very quickly. That's actually a bug in the program caused by the publishers, not by me. We fill out the line to tab 30, print the numbers out, and then do tab 30 again. So that poll wasn't very helpful. Uh-oh, people are getting restless. Living standards are okay, but they're not increasing. And people want things to get better. They don't want the same old, same old. They want hope. And the treasury is going bad. 4 hunters are retiring, and we only have 2 recruits. This is bad. This is very, very bad. There's going to be an election this year. So 1 fisher and 1 farmer. It's kept them on board. That's probably 11 votes for me. It's cold and it's wet. Hunters don't like going out in the wet. Fishers have done all right, though. And we've got 20 of the harvest and 28 workers. So I have 2 sacks each. We'll sell what's left. Let's not have a poll. The treasury is not as empty. We dug a hole in the floor and sold the planks. We're not going to hire any builders. You could never hire... we try and hire builders like an idiot. And they've gone berserk and smashed up all the existing houses. The people are not going to be very happy. Not very happy at all. So now the wages are currently 56. I've increased the wages to keep people happy, take my cut, and we've gone below the limit of minus 200 talents. We've gone bankrupt, and I've been thrown out of office. Ruler for 7 years, during which time I amassed 37 ingots.
Hey, kid, I'm a fisher. I like it wet. I don't like it dry, though. Makes fish go all manky. Hey.
This is the 4th and final part of the tribe delivered by S Robert Speel. This edition contains a graph at the end of the first year and every 3 years after that, showing you how well you're doing. Also, periodically, the workers will demand an increase in wages. So here I've given new recruits to the gatherers and the farmers, so build up a block against the hunters. It's warm and it's wet, so the hunters have done pretty well. They like the warm. They're not keen on the wet, though. We're not going to sell food at that price. So at the end of the first year, you get a nice graph with the ideal living standards in the white blocks with the magenta outlines, which get increased every few years. We are currently the first year, little red dot. 4 hunters are retiring. There's going to be trouble again. So there's no point in giving new hunters to them, but 1 new gatherer and 1 new farmer. We've got enough money, though, to splash the cash. So to hire some builders. I've increased the wages and I also need to embezzle some money, otherwise I won't be able to stand for election. So let's borrow 20 from the treasury. No, actually, let's take the lot. Stop it. Guildfathers, they're going to force an election. I could try to bribe them, but I don't. I'm going to let the people decide. People are happy. Food is up, housing is up, wages are up, it's a boom time. But the guild, because the hunters have shrunk, they're not happy. However, the rank and file hunters are pretty much on my side, as are the gatherers and the farmers. Workers are demanded and wages are increased. There is a value that determines how important that is to them. It could be they just fancy a pay rise. It could be that, no, they really, really need new food. New food and shoes and that. So it depends how angry they are if you say no. I said no in that case. People don't really mind that much, but the guilds are forced to have another election. I wish I've got to spend 50 to stand. Fortunately, I embezzled the entire treasury. So the hunters are actually against me now, but the gatherers and the farmers are still for me. And there's been a drought. So gatherers aren't too badly affected. They've still got to gather 3 food each. But the hunters didn't do very well at all. There's nothing from the farmers. Fortunately, we have enough food in stock to keep everyone well fed. And we got our second graph. We're now in year 4, so they expect living standards to be 2. And in fact, living standards are up in the 4 level. They're actually 5, so we're doing pretty well. Ahead of the curve. Can we make it to 7 years? Workers again demanding increased wages. They've currently got 50. Increase it to 75, then we will go instantly bankrupt. Instead, I cut their wages. That will teach them. People are now rioting, though, which is not so good. So we have to have an election and spend 50 ingots of my hard-earned cash in order to stand. And the hunters are entirely against me. The gatherers are mostly against me. The fishers hate me, and so do the farmers. That is a landslide against me. I've been sacked. Oh dear. They did not appreciate my wisdom. There's also an improved scoring based on the number of time you rule, time and power, living standards, population growth. Your horde is now much less important than it used to be. So although I ruled for less years, I actually got much more points because you get points for being in power and for things getting better.
Get off my land! We farmers don't like you incomers coming trampling our crops. We farmers like it best in the warm, 'cause in the cold our side of the freeze.
This is version 5. I've made my own additions to this. I've added a new guild. At the moment, the only way you can make money is by selling food, and you need food to live. What if you had other resources? So I've added a new guild of the miners. Miners consume food and require wages, and otherwise act like other guilds, except they dig ore. Ore can then be sold. So here I've mined 4 ore, therefore I have 4 ore in store. The selling price is actually pretty low, so I'm going to keep it there. The idea is eventually you can sell it and make a bit of a profit, and therefore not be in constant need. However, you can never ever reduce miners voluntarily. So here now we've mined ore again, and we keep going. We're still hoping to get better ore. There's a chance you might get a cave-in and lose a miner, or you might strike a mother lode and get more money. Unfortunately, I've not done very well in this go, but I've added a guild, which is now leading us onto the final version, version 6.
You're bad, you shall be the most dangerous game.
This is the final version of the tribe. This is version 6, a version which I've made available thanks to the kind graces of Jim Blimey in both TZX and tape format. I have added a loading screen, which you will see shortly thanks to the power of ZX Paintbrush. I've also added a nice font. I've used the font N31 from Roberto Colombo's Charbank. There was a slight problem with that though, in that 2 characters I needed, ampersand and %, were not available. So you have to edit those, which involves saving N31 to tape, loading it into a personal set, and then editing those 2 characters. Done that. I then was a bit disappointed the game didn't really do a lot with Game Over apart from telling you your scores. So I've added custom Game Over screen and a custom victory screen as well, again based on ZX Paintbrush. Load them into memory. I'm using the machine code derived from Showdown from Spectrum Super Games, that's a few weeks ago. And as soon as you win or you lose, you get a nice screen popped up on there for you to play with. The other gameplay change I've made is added yet another guild, that of the Carvers. And what the Carvers do is each turn a carver takes a piece of ore and attempts to make statues out of it. They do not always succeed, but they may make multiple statues which are worth more money. And the cunning folk of the tribe have drawn up their graphs, and we are ahead of what they deem it to be. So no one's retiring, so we've got no new hunters, thank you, enough of those, no new gatherers. We're going to have one new farmer and one new miner. We're going to start building up a store of ore. Unfortunately, we've not been able to find any ore. Finding ore is not guaranteed, and of course, miners can die in cave-ins. So the builders are offering to improve housing, 50 ingots. I'll have that, thank you very much. I can afford that. Unfortunately, the workers are aware that there are lots of ingots sloshing about, so they demand more money. So in that case, I'll have a bonus to myself. Thank you very much. Cravats do not grow on trees. So we've mined 4 sacks of ore, which is pretty good. We're now in year 4 of the Snorkers era. We've managed to mine 3 lots of ore. We've got 7 sacks in store. We're going to sell a lot of that because we are in rather desperate need of money. The people that are now gone from happy to satisfied to restless. That's never good. They're probably talking about me behind my back. So now 2 hunters are retiring. We have 3 recruits needing work. So we're going to replace the 2 hunters and have 1 new fisher. We're going to have 2 fishers. If it's wet, the fishers will do quite well. And of course it's warm and wet. So we have 2 fishers and they produce 4 sacks of food each, which is rather good. The harvest is 70. We're having 2 sacks per person. And the selling prices, though, are pretty bad. So we're not going to sell any food. We're going to hope that ore will be on the up. Ore is not on the up. We've only found 1 sack of ore and the price is awful. Year 7. 3 no retirements, 3 new recruits. So we're going to have 1 gatherer, 1 fisher in case it's wet, no farmers, no miners. I have 1 carver to try and use up some of this ore to hopefully help with the money situation. So we've crafted 2 statues out of 1 ingot, 1 sack of ore, and we're going to sell both of those and pocket 10 ingots. So we've got 4 ingots left in the treasury. Unfortunately, no, I've made a mistake. Terribly sorry. There's been no ingots left in the treasury. Yes, we are exactly. The treasury is entirely bare. Yes, quite. Living standard. People are happy again. 2 sacks of food, 2 ingots, and a basic little house. We managed to reach year 7. And we are all pretty much on the line. We need to improve things before year 10. We improved things twice before year 10, looks like. Year 8. 3 hunters are retiring, but we have 2 recruits. So the hunters are going to go ballistic. So I have no new hunters. We'll try and balance that out with fishers and farmers. And we've mined a couple of bits of ore. 5 ore in store. We're going to sell a couple of them. Every little helps. And we've got 4 statues crafted, which is nice. So we're going to sell all 4 of those, making 28 ingots. And we are 6 ingots short of the builders. If I'd sold a few more sacks of ore, or maybe embezzled less, we might have been able to build another house. Take my cut, and I'll empty the treasury into my own pockets. And because there's going to be an election anyway, and maybe I can escape with a sack of gold. People are annoyed. And the guilds have forced me to have an election because the Hunters Guild dropped. And the Hunters pretty much hate me. And everyone else is fairly even. So it's not a landslide against me, but it's definitely a majority defeat. 13-4. And I've been dragged to the Wicker Man. This is the end over screen. It does say, if you do not do well, you will be disposed of. Yes, you will be burned alive as a sacrifice to the gods. I was ruler for 8 years, during which time I amassed 815 ingots. Time and power 400, 50 per year. Living standard 66, population growth 50, and my hoard 230, 746 so far. A high score for me. Can you do better?
Well, that didn't go quite as planned. I think they objected to my helping myself to the ingots after all the hard work I did for them. Oh dear. But as a consolation, they've gone and set up a hot date for me, they said. Which I'm rather looking forward to. Oh, yes. I say, that's a rather large picnic basket, isn't it? Ha!